Hi, this is Jim Jordan with the Oregon Energy Healing Center, and today I'm going to have a dialogue with Acacia Land, who is a local transformational coach and healer in the Ashland area. And she came in for a energy enhancement system session. I believe it was about a week ago you came in,
Yeah,
Acacia?
around that. Yeah.
Okay, a week ago. We've known each other for over 10 years, but haven't seen each other in a long time. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your insights about what your experience was like with the E system and any other insights you have into how this relates to healing
Yeah,
with your
absolutely.
practice. So
hmm
welcome to the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. You
So
want me to?
what was that like for you? I guess you came in as a referral from our mutual friend Renee.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
hmm
And this was your first time having a session with the EE system?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, well, let's know what your take was on that experience and what your insights were about that.
Yeah. Well, as you know, the heart is an electromagnetic field. So I feel just I mean, that's the field that I study in most in the neuroscience and understanding that. And um, I feel like it really engages with the heart and then the nervous system, which is incredibly vital in our healing process because most of us are stuck up in our heads and disconnected from how we're feeling and from this precious, beautiful vortex that lives inside of us. That was the first thing created in the mother's womb. So anytime we are encouraged back into coherence, which is the field of the heart, it helps us to heal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Was that
Yeah.
your experience with the EE system that you felt more
Oh,
integrated?
yeah. Absolutely. It's just like
Okay.
you relax into that field. And whenever we're in a field of coherence, I mean, we can generate that field internally,
Right.
but a lot of us don't even know how. We haven't been properly educated on that. So that was my experience going in there, having had many experiences of being in a state of coherence. I try to maintain that in my life daily, but just how, yeah, it allows your body to heal and nourish itself and revitalize. Whenever you get in a state of coherence, it also like takes us out of the hindbrain or fight or flight
Right.
stages, prefrontal cortex, so we can have new insights and intuition and empathy for others, ourselves.
Right.
And also when the heart's online and heart brain coherence, then we go from being a toxic internal environment into a self internal community, and we also are creating a tonic environment for ourselves to thrive.
Very well said. Thank you. That was, I think, the most clear I've ever heard it. So, I mean, I'll try to, mirror back what I heard. So it sounds like to me, and my experience too, is that when I'm in my head and thinking a lot and just in the rational mind, I'm often in fear. And
Yes.
I'm actually not accessing the deeper truth. So again, my experience with the E system when I started getting into it a little over 2 years ago is I felt, I would say more in heart coherence or more in my heart, more relaxed, more at peace. And things started happening more fluid and organically for me in my life. And that's what led me into wanting to bring the E system to Oregon. So I think you described it really beautifully. So what is it specifically about being in the sort of heart coherence that contributes to healing? I mean, I can see that you're not thinking as much, you're not in fear, but is there some biological process that's activated too, from your understanding, or for healing
Well,
the body?
yeah, well, like I described, the nervous system. So I see it two ways. Like our culture, I have an acronym for PTSD in our culture. It means push that shit down. So and then we have a tendency to self-medicate rather than self-regulate.
Right,
There's a huge, vast difference between that. We go get pharmaceuticals or other ways that we addict ourselves to try to feel better.
right,
And but learning to self-regulate, which is what I experienced there, it is like learning to calm our nervous system down so we can have like a healthier body response. And it's also like learning to track how we're feeling because most people I have found have a real disconnect from how we're feeling. We're taught in this fast-paced world now just to like ignore, ignore, ignore. And when you just soften into whether it's pain, pleasure, all the above, like the heart does not decide for you if this is good or bad. It's just like this is the definition of unconditional love, when we can sit in our discomfort and still be like, I'm okay with not being okay.
Right.
And then that actually starts to make us feel okay. So getting more in regular habits of learning how to calm the nervous system down. And I think what you're using is a great tool for it, because sometimes we definitely need outside support.
Right.
Mhm.
And then how would this tie into your work? Like so I can see that the E system does create that environment so people have that sort of experience of heart coherence. And then what are things that other people can do when they're outside of that healing center, healing vibrational field that you teach, that you can offer them?
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's three ways I feel like, um, so just actually proper education. I am all about educating people about how to actually heal their bodies,
Right.
not just, like I said, self-medicate, to actually heal their bodies. So learning again how to educating ourselves how our brain and our nervous system and our heart works, and how feeling your emotions impacts you. So I have an exercise, I call it stop, drop, and feel. It's like when you're triggered, it's like what we watched the commercials when we were younger: stop, drop, and roll when the house is on fire. So this is our house. So if my house is on fire, I need to stop, drop, and feel. Like notice what I'm experiencing, because if you can feel it, you can heal it. These are all like neuroscience terms. And then also it helps us to regulate our nervous system, to calm down.
Mhm.
And then you can do heart focused breathing. So for instance, like putting your attention in your heart. I mean, we do it all the time, like putting our attention on things. So if we can put our attention on our heart and do heart focused breathing, like 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, just so that our nervous system can begin to regulate itself. And then maybe like thinking about things you appreciate, because appreciate is the fastest way to get into your heart.
Those are
So
great tips. Yeah. I think our society is so mentally focused in our head through
mhm.
reason and rational thought that
Yeah.
very like immature emotionally. I mean, I know I can speak for myself. I mean, I had to learn a lot about having emotional sensitivity, and that helped me a lot in my growth and healing process. So it's not so some of the work you do, it seems like they would really go well with the people, our members that are coming for EE sessions. And
Mhm.
maybe in the future we can get, if you're open to giving a talk at our healing center, would be really wonderful. I'd like to have you.
Yes.
So some of the things what is it what's the name of is there a name of the modality that you do, or is this something just sort of created on your own through your years, or
Yeah, well, I mean, I have a combination of a lot of different things. Like I've done years of heart circle work. I've
so,
studied with the HeartMath Institute. I have trainings with shadow work and done shadow work sessions for years. So it's like kind of an integration of all those different modalities. And the number one thing too is actually teaching people how to have healthy relationships with your own body. Like, how does my body work? It's like people are always like, you need to let it go and all this stuff. And I was like, actually, let's just give honor to how the body and brain works. Like, if you
yeah,
understand that and the difficulty it takes for just that to occur. So, validating people's experience, helping them to
right,
drop into feeling, to be seen, soothed, and understood is just like everything. I think that it's what most of us actually really need. And then so once you understand your own internal space and how to build your community here, I think it's easier to offer it outside, because I think we're suffering in the relational realm right now,
yes,
especially with the undercurrent of the trauma that we all experienced, I think, with COVID and being isolated and,
right,
made each other like look like enemies. Like that's still sitting in our in our field. And we can't just sweep that under the rug because our nervous system and body tracks all that. So my main mission right now is how to have healthy relationships with each other, how to get back into our hearts, how to learn to communicate, have differences, and still be able to make bridges rather than wars.
That's exactly right. In fact, that was one of the things that motivated me to bring the energy enhancement system to Oregon, because I felt it was not just for individuals to heal, but also for community, because I saw the same thing during COVID. There was this huge polarization that took place and more fear than I've ever seen in my lifetime in society. And I felt that this was one way to sort of leverage by through the fact that we can have multiple people in the room at the same time, that experience of being in that coherent, energetic field, and hopefully to bridge that divide, which I feel is I think there's some hope for that, and I think that's one of the things that the E system can do. When you're in that space, when you're in the room with these people at the end of the sessions, when people share, there's a feeling I get at least of people feeling very connected. They had a shared experience of being at peace together, just taking a little nap, being at peace. They come out of it and they seem to be happier with themselves and with everybody. So
Yeah, that's what coherence does. It's like,
yeah, that's what
yeah,
coherence
it
does.
goes into this part of the brain, and you're like, oh, I can see colors, I can see vibrancy, I can see life.
Right.
Before you're like, nah, or in the future or past, like
Yeah.
when you get present, it's like you realize everything's okay and I can handle this now.
Okay. I
Mhm.
like that. So there's and for people to reach you that see this interview, there's we can put that in the notes of the video. Of course, if we want to, we can put your website if you have a website. And
Yeah, I'm about to launch some new programs. It's not up yet, but I think within the next week I will have everything.
okay.
I'm just editing some videos and then it'll be launched. So
Okay, I'll put that in the notes of the video. I think this is something I really want to connect with people who are in your groups too, to see that there's a common experience they can have with healing with the E system, and they can perhaps stimulate deeper connection to your heart, as you say. People could say their soul or their true self, whatever is. That's what we need.
authenticity, authenticity.
Authenticity, your authentic self. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say I think that was the word I felt when I did 3E sessions a week for a month. And I
Mhm.
felt more like myself than I'd felt in decades.
I love
I
that.
felt like I was just, wow, I feel like I'm who I've always been now. I can feel who I've been. And before that, I was just in constant fight or flight,
Yeah.
fear, trying to figure things out. And then my mind just slowed down a lot. And then things started to flow very beautifully for me. And that's what got me motivated. So I'm really glad you came in for a session. I'm so glad that Renee came in and you came in and
Yeah.
connect with your group of people. I knew you're into something. I knew you're into Joe Dispenza a bit. I think we talked about that.
Yes.
He's been very influential for me too. Very
Yeah.
influential. I really benefit from his work.
He's
Uh,
amazing. Yeah. Talk about coherent field, and he does
yeah,
things. Just I think it's important that for those of us that know just like how to help people get back into feeling like themselves, just like what you said. That's what
yeah,
it's like the three things I feel like when we're born, we're seeking. Am I safe? Is it okay to be myself? And am I loved? And how our brain and nervous system wraps around or creates all these defense mechanism or coping mechanisms
right.
in order to like either suppress that or create that in our lives. And sometimes it comes out sideways because we haven't been allowed to be ourselves.
That's so well said. Yeah, I think we've just not even, I think at least I can speak for a lot of men, we don't even think about that.
Yeah.
It's just not something you think about. It's just, what do I have to do in the world? What is my mission? And we don't think about our own safety or happiness or anything. It's more like, what do I
Yeah.
get? And people are just running around like crazy trying to stay alive, function,
Yes.
make their bills, not go down. And they're not getting in touch with their feelings. And that I think was the key. That was the key for me to get in touch with my emotional life that I had not really I ignored it a lot. And that was part of how I came around to healing deeper, and that brought me to the E system, truthfully. Yes.
I love that.
It opens.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, similar, it's like sometimes our trauma is our best medicine because it brings us to the work that we're meant to do or offer in the world.
Is that how you came to this through your own personal
Yeah,
journey?
I mean, I had a lot of trauma as a child. I mean, I from the moment I was born, I felt like I had a mission here. And I didn't know what it was, but I would often talk to people about energy and I could see energy. And when I was like in fifth grade, I think I was really into science. I've always been into science.
Mhm.
And they did a class on the state of matter. And I was like, see, everything is energy. I knew it. And I actually was so passionate about it. I did a science fair and I won the whole science fair because I was so like passionate about what I was talking about. Because I knew it. And then the next year I did it on I presented about the heart. I got second prize, but it was just like it's in my
Right.
path. But I had a tremendous amount of trauma and abuse and my father dying, watching him die when I was 9. And,
Oh.
so I've been always just seeking to
Mhm.
understand trauma, to understand how to heal, to understand how to have compassion even for other people's, I know having my experience, like I can relate to just about anyone who's had a hard experience. And, it sucks that I've had to learn that way, but it's also
Yeah.
beneficial because it changed my brain to be able to be a lot more compassionate and understanding and really love people and see and
Yeah.
acknowledge and validate the pain that they've been through. And I'm going to hold your hand and walk you through this.
Yeah, exact. That's great. I wanted to ask you, since you are so energy sensitive, I mean, we do have some people come in that are super sensitive. They can see things in the energetic field there. How would you describe the energy in the room, in the EE system? How would you describe what is happening there?
Well, have you ever heard of like a random number generator?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it feels like it enters into the zero field. So it's like it's when everything harmonizes with itself and comes into that like 0 point, which
Yes.
is presence. It's the heart field too.
Yeah.
So it's heart brain coherence. It's when everything can quiet and you are tapped into this emergent field as opposed to I mean, that is a dangerous state because I feel like the powers that be, not to, whatever, bring conspiracy into this, but I feel like it's like a way to control us is by keeping us out of that field. When you become heart brain coherent, you are no longer controllable. You are generating a field of coherence. I call it also, it's like when you're in your mind alone, HeartMath literally has these tools that measure you. You're like an inch off the body. You're becoming impacted by collective consciousness.
Hmm.
And when you're in the heart field, it generates up a field. I mean, some have measured it up to 2 city blocks. You're impacting
Wow.
people with your coherent field. I mean,
Right.
that you're the machine too. It's like it's generating that electromagnetic field,
Yes.
which we have the potential to do as well. And then you impact your environment as
Right.
to being impacted. So you are tapped into the emergent field and,
Right.
and what is possible. You're in a state of flow, internally and then externally, you're magnetizing to you the good that is possible, as opposed to thinking you want to manifest something, you're in your brain, but your body's like, oh no, we're going to keep generating these negative chemicals that are telling you your limited beliefs. And it's like radiating that energy. So when you get into a calm state, you're like, you see with new perspective, like new eyes.
So that's why positive thinking alone may not accomplish your manifestation, because your mind might be generating that image that you want, but your heart is not in alignment or coherence with your mind. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah. The feeling, like the feeling is what magnetizes back to you. The
Got it.
it's like creating the torus field. The thought goes like this. It generates a field like that. That's the thought field.
Right.
And the heart, which is the feeling, is magnetizing what you're feeling back to you. So it's like not about thinking about abundance. It's like feeling what the abundance or the health would imagine. Like, I feel expanded. I feel freedom. I feel like joy. I feel like I can do anything, I like anything is possible. So
That's what
it's
Joe
like,
Dispenza would teach. I remember I studied this book. You'd get into the feeling state, feel as if it were happening, or had happened already, and that would magnetize things towards you. That was my experience with Dispenza. Yeah.
yeah, because most of us, like he says, we're living in the past because our everything in our body is stored it's like from the past. So we are turning from matter, which is the past, into frequency.
Yeah.
And like you're helping people access the frequency and get into the future potential as opposed to the past, like baggage that most of us are carrying around.
Right. This has been very helpful. I'll say for myself, it's been helpful to me to hear you describe this because I've been learning we're coming up on our 1 year anniversary. I've been learning the entire year how this works. This is something that's a very powerful technology. And sometimes it helps for me, and I know it helps our members to hear someone who has a perspective that's steeped in understanding energy and coherence and all that, the heart connection especially, to see what they're experiencing in the EE system. So this has been extremely helpful. I really want to thank you, Acacia, very much for taking the time out of your day to have this conversation. And I'm looking forward to, let's keep in touch and maybe get you to have some opportunities to speak to our members directly.
I would love that. Yeah.
Very good. I'm looking forward to seeing you around, and just call me if you need anything, if you want to, talk more about any of these topics. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Mhm. Thank you.
Well, this is Jim Jordan with Acacia Land, with the Oregon Energy Healing Center, wishing you a great day. Bye bye, Acacia.
Bye. Mhm.